Good afternoon. I'm traveling a bit here, but I wanted to stop and leave a message because of some of the messages I've been receiving on my channel. Even though I'm not posting as much the last couple of weeks, I am checking periodically, and it's amazing the vitriol that I've been getting on there. I've been thinking a lot, too, about what happened about 3 weeks ago, where I received a message from a former friend of mine, a very good friend, somebody that was a real buddy to me, somebody who was actually very, very dear. And it's heart-wrenching to even mention this, but I've mentioned it before. He found me again. He decided to come after me. And he described me as disgraced, which I always thought was a strange way of explaining things when you're describing someone. Because to me, disgrace is something that somebody does to you as often as you do it to yourself. And let me explain. So in the past, I've heard, years ago, people described as disgraced, and it's been used to mean somebody who disgraced themselves by doing disgraceful things, or somebody who fell from grace, not necessarily of their own volition, or certainly with a lot of help from someone else. And as I've said many times, if you are somebody who's fallen from grace, somebody gets to decide what you did and how you did it, because the winners get to write the story. And it's always important to remember that just because the winners get to write the story, that doesn't mean that's the actual story. And by winners, I mean people with the power, or who are equally powerless, but they use the media to nip at your heels. And you guys know who you are out there, because I know you're watching. So we are now at the 14th week plus since the police kicked in my door on the recommendation of Eric J. Lind of Alicia's Project. And I will be addressing Mr. Lind here at some point, but Mr. Lind had 3 or 4 things that he felt I should be dressed down with. And all 3 of them are things that you could easily find on the internet. As I've said before, you don't have to go to great lengths to seize devices, unless, of course, you're looking for something else, or you're intending to do something else to create that disgraced moniker that I keep talking about. And again, after 14 weeks, you would think that if you had found something, you'd be looking for it. But again, the police tell me they're very busy dealing with other people, so maybe they'll get around to me. Who knows? But I have heard on my channel from people who have gone after me in the most amazing ways, the most feral, vicious, horrible ways. One of them dug into my divorce and read what the dishonest guardian ad litem said, claiming something that was never said. And of course, these are part of the record, and the record, again, is written by people who win. It's not written by people who lose. And it's not the full record, as I've said. Folks have also claimed that they're going to get the full record through the chat logs. Well, some who have these chat logs, some of these feral folk, have read selections from the chat logs, even as they're accusing me of reading selections. At some point, I'm going to put together Alex, and Zach together, so that you can see exactly what police did, because what it actually amounts to is somebody who is innocent being attacked. And that's part of what I talk about on my channel. 2 things, mainly: people who are attacked, who are innocent, whose lives are destroyed; others who are more guilty, whose lives are spared; and still others who find that they love nipping at your heels and attacking you and trying to make you the worst thing since Jeffrey Dahmer. One such person is on the Net Predators site, who has decided that he, while he hides behind his own anonymity, is going to make sure that he does everything he can to expose me. So his argument is he's going to expose me for something that I am not guilty of, but that other people gave him additional information, or I don't even know what exactly, some nonsense he is spewing. I have still another one who decides he's going to research me online and finds all these accounts supposedly by me. He dances around it a little bit, but supposedly by me. And I want to remind all of you that there are accounts out there about me talking about, or platforms, or whatever you want to call it, social media from these nasty, pointless trolls who gird themselves in the noble mission, excuse me, of helping children, but do nothing for actual children. Nothing for actual children. But they love joining the bandwagon of shaming and finger wagging and all the other nonsense that they like to do. And, one of them is talking about all these accounts I supposedly have out there, including emails and other things. And, again, I remind them that there's a site dedicated to the Dunning-Kruger effect. There's one that's an underground site. I won't name these sites, but they do the most. It would be hilarious if it weren't for the fact that I know that these are supposedly mature adults leading professional lives out there that act like complete buffoons. When I was 8 and 9 years old, I didn't act like a buffoon like these folks. They act like they're in some treehouse in the forest, giggling over some stupid nonsense. Well, I used to be in tree houses in the forest when I was 9 years old, and camping and fishing and stuff, but I was reading Foxfire books and learning, new knots to tie and how to build a better campfire. I wasn't dealing with this nonsense. Well, they're upset, all of these three juggleheads, because I'm out there speaking truth to power. I'm out there telling the truth about what these police raids are doing, where very few people are willing to come out of the shadows and do it. And that's simply intolerable for them. They cannot stand and stomach the fact that I'm making these things known. They just hate it. And, I'm going to append, the real to this video. I'm sorry. I'm just, I don't plan these. I don't have a lengthy script in most cases. So I'm going stream of consciousness. But I'm going to post down below here a recent article that talks about a police officer who got into some shenanigans, was fired from the force, but picked up by another police officer and sent into a school to do the same thing as a resource officer, whereupon he started a relationship with a student. I mean, the stuff you hear about are worse than the other stuff you hear about from the so-called pedophiles. I can append several from teachers. That's heartbreaking, supposedly that they did something. But again, in both cases, we want to make sure that we understand who's telling the story. It's the police feeding the story to the media. Because in the case of the policeman who did something, the details are a little bit, a little jagged. We're not quite sure. But in the case of the teachers, well, it's very clear cut. And even then, if you read between the lines, you don't know what's going on. All of it's heartbreaking. All of it shouldn't be happening. All of it is very sad. But then we have, as I've said many times, a situation where if the police would simply come clean on what they're actually doing with the proactive stings and how they're conflating the actual events and how in their statistics, and how they're going on and actually goosing these guys to do something that they didn't show an indication to do to begin with, and then labeling them with the pedo word and saying that they're criminal masterminds on there. It's so upsetting to see how the muddied waters are keeping us from actually knowing the degree to which children are really being harmed and understanding what we should do about it. If you don't know what's really going on, you can continue to say, well, yes, it's all the same thing. And my point is, it is not all the same thing. There's a war on sex going on that's extraordinary, and it's expanding. And it's by changing the definition of what is CSAM. It is pulling people onto the registry for simple exposure, for drunken, lewd, idiotic behavior in public that a child may see, as if a child can't be addressed and coached to view that in a different way, not as a way that's acceptable in society, but also not the same as somebody who would grab them and imprison them in a cage somewhere, which seems to be the only type of situation that we hear in the media, the worst case scenario all the time. So here, as I'm taking a little trip here and clearing my head, I want you to understand where we're at right now. Okay, we've got a number of people attacking me on my site. We have people who are dedicated to my downfall. They're working with the police. So when I hear from people who say, well, you need to call the police, call whom? Call the people who are working with these vigilantes and these trolls? Is that who I should call? You know, it's a very screwed up system. I am working with an attorney. I am working with a computer forensic guy, so just in case they're both needed. But I can tell you, folks, as we move into this Thanksgiving week, that there's very little to be given thanks for if you don't really work hard to find it. It's so easy to get discouraged. You have people in and around the White House who these same vigilantes and trolls and law enforcement are not going anywhere near. They're not doing anything for these people to bring them to justice. Nothing. And you can see why. Their largesse, in some ways, is dependent on these folks. Their situation is enhanced by working with law enforcement, by working with powerful politicians. Their name recognition is to go after the peas while the big fish swim away, and they just turn a blind eye to it. So this is what we have gotten ourselves into. People destroyed. And by the way, the destruction doesn't just stop with the conviction and the incarceration or subsequent placement on the sex offender registry. No, these people excuse me, are hunted down week after week, year after year. My alleged offense happened in 2018. There's been no offenses since then. But there's been constant muddying the waters around me as if it appears like there is. And any conversations I may or may not have had, anything I've done, such as picking up somebody on the side of the road, has been documented and twisted into some vile trope that I'm out there driving around, lurking in the shadows, trying to grab people. And that's exactly what's happening to all these others. We have brothers in the Southwest fired from a long-time job they held. We had other people destroyed when they hadn't done anything wrong, but people found out they were nearby, and that was all it took for them to get into their whispering campaign to bring these people down. And if there's any advice I can give, if you really want to do something, trolls and vigilantes and ugly citizens out there who pat yourselves on the back that you're the good people, when really you're not. You're just not. Look at your behavior. You're not. Find it in your heart this Thanksgiving season to do something good for a kid along the way. Help a family out. Do something not vile for once and see what that brings you. because so far it hasn't done anything. Even if you catch somebody as you're trying to do me not registering or something, forgetting an email or something, and by the way, this isn't a confession. I'm just telling you what you guys do out there, and I hear about it every single damn day where you're going after people, you're giving misleading information, you're destroying somebody's life again. Why? Why? Because you can? You claim it's illegal. Well, if you haven't just rolled through a stop sign at 3 o'clock in the morning, or cheated just a little bit on your taxes, right? Or did a little bit of something, maybe you got behind the wheel after you had a drink, all of that, or smoked marijuana as you're driving down the road. Folks, all of that in all 50 states, that's illegal. So if you did that, and you're still coming after people for some minor little thing, like the guy out in the western part of this state in Centerville, who showed up at his wife's work site as he'd done many times, but a new parent was spooked because he's a tier 3 and he needed to get special permission to be there, and golly gee whiz willikers, he didn't. Well, now he sits in jail. Why? He wasn't hurting anybody because they could. That's why. Because when you allow fear or cruelty to rule your heart, this is what you get. So again, this Thanksgiving, folks, do something good for somebody around you. Do something good instead of creating the same trouble that you claim other people have, and then coming on, as you undoubtedly will do against me, saying this is a distraction. No problem, folks. Focus on the illegal, immoral, proactive stings and the innocent people that they're garnering in there. Why don't you focus on that? That would be a valuable thing for which people would give you a great deal of thanks.